The call I never expected. The phone rang at 6:17 a.m. Not the polite, scheduled ring of an alarm, but the sharp, insistent sound that slices straight through a dream and into your chest. I remember staring at the ceiling of my small Chicago apartment, heart pounding before I even reached for the phone, as if some part of me already knew this wasn't ordinary. No one calls me that early, especially not on a Tuesday. I let it ring once more before answering, my voice still thick with sleep. Hello. There was a pause, a breath, then a voice I hadn't heard in 15 years. Emily, it's me. Time didn't slow down. It stopped. The world narrowed to that single sound, the familiar cadence, slightly deeper than I remembered, but unmistakable. My fingers tightened around the phone so hard they hurt. My mouth opened but nothing came out. On the other end of the line, he exhaled softly, nervously, just like he used to when he didn't know how to begin. I know this is sudden, he said, and I know I'm the last person you'd expect to hear from, but I'm in town, and I was hoping we could talk. In person. The words in town echoed in my head like a dropped plate shattering across tile. In town meant here. Here meant close. And close meant everything I'd spent years burying was suddenly standing at my door. I don't think that's a good idea, I said automatically. The sentence came from muscle memory, not conviction. I figured you'd say that, he replied. No defensiveness. No anger. Just quiet acceptance. But I had to try. Silence stretched between us, heavy loaded, humming with all the things we'd never said. Then he added gently, I won't take much of your time. Just one coffee. If you still don't want to see me after that, I'll understand. I stared at the pale morning light creeping through my blinds, illuminating the cracks in the ceiling I'd memorized over the years. My life was predictable now. Safe. Carefully arranged. And yet my heart was pounding like I was 22 again. Standing barefoot on a dorm room floor, holding a letter that would change everything. Where? I asked. There was another pause, this one filled with surprise. The diner on Maple, he said. The one with the blue booths. If it's still there. It was. Some things apparently refused to disappear. I hung up and sat on the edge of my bed, phone still pressed to my ear, as if the echo of his voice might linger. My hands were shaking. I told myself I was calm, that I was over it, that 15 years was more than enough time to move on. But my body knew the truth before my mind would admit it. I walked to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. 37 years old. Fine lines at the corners of my eyes. Hair pulled back into a practical knot. This was not the girl he remembered. Good. I pulled on jeans and a sweater, ignoring the voice in my head screaming, don't go. Another voice, quieter, more dangerous, whispered, you need to. The diner was only 6 blocks away. I could have walked it blindfolded. But every step felt heavier than the last, like the pavement itself was resisting me. When I pushed open the door, the familiar bell chimed overhead. The smell of coffee and buttered toast wrapped around me like an old coat. And then I saw him. He was already there, seated in the corner booth beneath the window, sunlight catching in his dark hair. Older, yes. Broader shoulders. Lines around his eyes that spoke of years lived hard. But it was him. My breath caught so sharply I had to grip the doorframe. He looked up, and for a moment the entire diner disappeared. We just stared at each other. Then he stood. Emily, he said softly. I nodded, afraid if I spoke my voice would betray me. We didn't hug. We didn't shake hands. We just sat across from each other, separated by a chipped formica table and 15 years of silence. You look, he began, then stopped, smiling awkwardly. You look well. So do you. I replied. It was the safest thing I could say. The waitress came by, oblivious to the emotional earthquake happening in booth 7. We ordered coffee. Black for both of us, another detail that twisted the knife of familiarity. I wasn't sure you'd come, he admitted once we were alone again. I wasn't sure either, I said honestly. Why now? He stared into his cup, watching the steam rise. Because I'm running out of time. My chest tightened. What does that mean? He looked up at me, then really looked, as if memorizing my face. It means I made a mistake, he said. And I should have fixed it a long time ago. The words hit harder than I expected. I waited. I said before I could stop myself. For years. I checked my email every day. I replayed our last conversation so many times I could recite it in my sleep. He winced. I know. You disappeared. I continued, my voice shaking now. No explanation. No goodbye. Just gone. I thought leaving was the right thing to do, he said quietly. For who? I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded envelope, edges worn soft. I've carried this since the day I left, he said, sliding it across the table toward me. I never sent it. I should have. My name was written on the front in handwriting I knew by heart. My hands hovered over it, trembling. What if I don't want to read it? I asked. Then I'll take it back, he said. And I'll walk out that door. I swallowed hard. Slowly, I opened the letter. And as I read the first line, the world tilted on its axis. Emily, if you're reading this, it means I was too afraid to say these words out loud. My vision blurred. This wasn't just a reunion. This was a reckoning. And I had no idea it would change everything I thought I knew about my past and my future. The truth he carried all these years. My hands were shaking so badly I had to steady the letter against the table. The diner around us faded into a low hum, silverware clinking, a radio murmuring classic rock somewhere behind the counter. But all I could hear were the words on the page and the sound of my own breathing, shallow and uneven. I forced myself to keep reading. I keep telling myself that silence was kinder than honesty, that leaving without explanation would hurt less than staying and destroying everything we dreamed of. But every day that passes proves me wrong. My throat tightened. Across from me, he sat perfectly still, as if afraid any movement might shatter the fragile moment holding us together. His eyes never left my face. You deserved the truth then. You deserve it now. I stopped. That's as far as I got, I said quietly, folding the letter back up. You can't just drop this in front of me after 15 years and expect me to keep breathing like nothing's wrong. He nodded slowly. I don't expect anything from you. Not forgiveness. Not understanding. Then why are you here? I asked. The question hung between us, sharp and unavoidable. He leaned back slightly, exhaling through his nose. Because I'm tired of carrying this alone. I studied him, the faint scar along his jaw I didn't remember, the way his hands curled inward like he was still bracing for impact. This wasn't the confident, idealistic man I'd fallen in love with in my 20s. Life had worn him down. I recognized that feeling intimately. Start talking, I said. Or this ends right now. He didn't hesitate. Do you remember the night before I left? He asked. The memory rose instantly, unwanted and vivid. Rain pounding against the windows of my off-campus apartment. Pizza boxes stacked on the counter. We'd been sprawled on the couch, my feet in his lap, arguing about paint colors for a future apartment we were sure we'd share. Yes, I said. I remember. I got a call that night, he continued. From my father. My stomach clenched. His father had always been a shadow looming over our relationship. A stern, old-school man who believed responsibility came before happiness and mistakes were paid for in silence. He was sick, he said. Terminal. He hadn't told anyone yet. I frowned. You never said. Because I didn't know how, he replied. And because that wasn't the worst part. He reached for his coffee, then seemed to forget it was there. He told me about my mother, he said. I blinked. What about her? He swallowed. That she didn't leave us when I was 12. She was forced out. The words didn't immediately land. Forced how? By him, he said simply. He threatened to take me away. Told her she'd never see me again if she stayed. She chose distance over destroying my future. I sat back stunned. All those years, he went on, voice tight. I thought she abandoned us. I built my entire sense of loyalty and duty on a lie. I could see it now, how that revelation would crack something fundamental inside a person. And that made you leave me? I asked softer now. It made me terrified, he said. Terrified of becoming him. Terrified of loving someone so deeply I'd end up hurting them no matter what I chose. My chest ached. So you decided for me, I said. Yes, he admitted. And it was wrong. The waitress came by to refill our cups, glancing between us with mild concern before moving on. As soon as she was gone, he leaned forward. "There's more," he said. I braced myself. "My father didn't just confess," he continued. "He made a demand." My pulse quickened. "What kind of demand?" "He wanted me to come home, take over the family business, care for him until the end." "And you went," I said. It wasn't a question. "I did," he replied, "because I was 24, angry, and convinced sacrifice was the same thing as strength." I stared down at the table, memories reshaping themselves in my mind. The unanswered calls, the sudden move, the silence that followed. "You could have told me," I whispered. "I know," he said. "But he told me if I did, if I tried to bring you into it, he'd make sure you never wanted to see me again." My head snapped up. "How?" He hesitated, then met my gaze. "By telling you something that wasn't true." Cold spread through me. "What?" "That I'd been unfaithful," he said. "That the man you loved was a lie." I sucked in a sharp breath. "And you believed him?" I asked. "I believed he was capable of it," he replied. "And I believed you deserved better than the mess I was about to become." Anger surged, hot and sudden. "So you broke me to protect me," I said bitterly. "Yes," he said without flinching. "And I've hated myself for it ever since." I pushed back from the table, standing abruptly. My legs felt unsteady. "I need air," I said. He didn't try to stop me. Outside, the morning had fully woken the city. Buses hissed at the curb. A man walked past with a briefcase and a coffee, absorbed in a life that hadn't just been ripped open. I pressed my palms against the cool brick wall of the diner and closed my eyes. 15 years. 15 years of wondering what I'd done wrong. Of rebuilding myself brick by brick. Of telling myself closure was overrated because sometimes you never get answers. And now here they were, messy, incomplete, and devastating. The door creaked behind me. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. I didn't turn around. "Sorry doesn't give me those years back," I replied. "Sorry doesn't undo the nights I spent convincing myself I wasn't enough." "I know," he said. "I'm not here to ask for that." I finally faced him. "Then what are you asking for?" I demanded. He looked at me the way he used to when he was about to tell the truth, even if it scared him. "One chance," he said, "to show you who I am now, not who I was when I ran." I laughed softly, humorless. "You think that's a small thing?" "I think it's the only thing left," he said. I studied his face, older, yes, but open in a way it never had been before. There was no bravado, no certainty, just honesty laid bare. "You said you were running out of time," I reminded him. "What did you mean by that?" He hesitated. Then he said, "Because I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending the past didn't shape me." That wasn't the answer I expected, but it was real. "I don't know if I can do this," I said. "I know," he replied, "but I needed you to know the truth, even if this is goodbye." The word hit harder than I wanted it to. I took a deep breath. "Finish the letter," I said suddenly. "Not on paper. Out loud." His eyes widened slightly. "Right now?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "If you're going to reopen this wound, you're not leaving it half-healed." He nodded once. "Okay," he said. "I can do that." We went back inside, sitting across from each other again, the envelope between us like a bridge or a boundary. He took a breath. "Emily," he began, voice steady but low, "I loved you in a way I didn't know how to protect. And I left because I was afraid that loving you would turn me into the man I hated most." My heart pounded. "And I was wrong," he continued, "because leaving you didn't save either of us. It just delayed the pain." Tears slipped down my cheeks, uninvited and unstoppable. "For 15 years," he said, "you've been the question I never stopped asking myself." The diner blurred. And for the first time since he walked out of my life, I realized something terrifying and hopeful all at once. This reunion wasn't about the past anymore. It was about what came next. The day everything changed again. I didn't sleep that night. After the diner, after the letter was spoken aloud and folded back into silence, we walked out together but in opposite directions. No hug, no promises, just a quiet understanding that something long buried had finally been unearthed. and neither of us knew what would grow in its place. Back in my apartment, I sat on the edge of my bed, still wearing my coat, listening to the city breathe through my window. The hum of traffic, a distant siren, the thud of footsteps in the hallway next door. Life continuing, indifferent to the storm inside me. I kept hearing his voice. One chance. I had built my adult life on not needing anyone. A solid job in nonprofit communications. A small circle of friends who knew not to pry. Sunday morning runs along the lakefront. A standing rule. Never fall in love with someone who didn't know how to stay. And yet, by morning my resolve felt thin. At 9:42 a.m. my phone buzzed. A text message. Unknown number. I know you didn't ask me to reach out again. I just wanted to say thank you for listening. No reply needed. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Then I typed back. Coffee. Tomorrow. Same place. 8 a.m. The reply came instantly. I'll be there. The second meeting was different. Less raw. More dangerous. We talked about safe things at first, his work in Denver, my job in Chicago, mutual friends who'd married, divorced, moved away. We laughed, cautiously, like people testing ice after a long winter. You still take your coffee black, he said, smiling. You still notice things like that, I replied. The familiarity was unsettling. I should tell you something, he said suddenly, setting his cup down. My chest tightened. You're not allowed to drop bombs without warning anymore. He gave a small smile. Fair. He hesitated, then said, I'm not staying in Chicago long. I nodded. I assumed. A week, he continued. Maybe less. I tried to keep my voice steady. Then why push for this now? Because I didn't come here by accident, he said. I frowned. What does that mean? He took a breath, bracing himself. My mother lives here now, he said. The name mother landed differently this time. You found her? I asked. Yes, he replied. 2 years ago. We've been rebuilding things. Slowly. I didn't know what to say. She's sick, he added. There it was. What kind of sick? I asked quietly. Autoimmune, he said. Chronic. Manageable most days. But it's made her reflective. She's been urging me to make peace with my past. I looked at him sharply. She knows about me? A faint smile. She's known about you for 15 years. My throat closed. She said, he continued, if there was one person you never stop talking about, even when you pretend you have, that's the person you owe the truth. I swallowed hard. And now? I asked. Now, he said. I don't know what comes next. But I know I couldn't leave this city again without seeing you. Something shifted then, not dramatically, but undeniably. The truth had stopped being a weapon and started becoming a bridge. After breakfast we walked. No destination. Just the familiar rhythm of two people who once knew how to exist side by side. At the corner of Maple and 3rd he stopped. There's somewhere I'd like to take you, he said. If you're willing. Where? I asked. My mother's house, he replied. I froze. I'm not asking you to meet her, he added quickly. Just see it. There's something I think you should know. Every instinct screamed this is too fast. But another part of me, the one that had answered the phone at 6:17 a.m., knew avoiding truth had never saved me before. Okay, I said. The house was a modest brick bungalow on the south side. Neat. Lived in. A small American flag fluttered from the porch. She has good taste, I said, attempting lightness. She'd like that, he replied. We didn't go inside. Instead, he led me around back, where a small garden sat beneath a maple tree just beginning to turn. He stopped beside a wooden bench. This is where she sits every morning, he said. And this is where she told me about you. I sat down slowly. She kept letters, he continued. Not from you. From me. Drafts I never sent. My heart thudded. Why are you telling me this? Because there's one more thing I never told you, he said. And I don't want to leave Chicago again without you knowing all of it. I looked up at him. When I left, he said, voice tight, I wasn't just running from my father. I held my breath. I had already accepted a job overseas, he continued. A dangerous one. Contract work. Security. The pieces slammed together. You could have died, I whispered. I almost did, he said. My chest ached. And I didn't tell you, he added, because I knew you'd try to stop me. Or worse, wait for me. Tears burned my eyes. So you decided I didn't get a choice, I said. Yes, he said again. No excuses. No defenses. I stood abruptly, emotions crashing over me. You don't get to come back into my life and rewrite yourself as noble, I snapped. You hurt me. Deeply. I know, he said. And if that's all you see when you look at me, I'll accept it. Silence stretched between us, heavy and alive. Then he said softly, but I survived. And the person who came back is someone who knows the cost of silence. I turned away, pressing my hand to my mouth. I wanted to scream, to cry, to rewind time and shake my younger self for believing love alone was enough. But I also wanted terrifyingly to believe people could change. I don't know what this means, I said finally. It doesn't have to mean anything yet, he replied. Just don't shut the door today. I closed my eyes. Somewhere behind us, a neighbor's radio played an old Springsteen song, Thunder Road, drifting through the afternoon air. I laughed weakly. Of course. He smiled, sad and genuine. America has a way of soundtracking heartbreak, he said. I looked at him, then really looked. And for the first time since the reunion, I didn't see the man who left. I saw the man who came back. The moment I almost walked away. The call came 3 days later. I was in the middle of a meeting. Fluorescent lights, stale coffee, a whiteboard filled with bullet points no one would remember by Friday, when my phone vibrated in my bag. I glanced down, expecting a text from a coworker. Instead, it was his name. My stomach dropped. I excused myself, stepping into the hallway just as the call went to voicemail. Seconds later, a message appeared. It's my mom. I'm at the hospital. I don't know who else to call. For a long moment, I just stood there, the hallway buzzing with the distant sound of printers and voices. This wasn't part of any plan. There was no script for this version of us. And yet my feet were already moving. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and overbrewed coffee. Every American hospital I'd ever been in, compressed into one familiar, unsettling scent. I found him in the waiting room, hunched forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped together so tightly his knuckles were white. He looked up when he saw me. Relief washed over his face so openly it took my breath away. You came, he said. I said don't shut the door, I replied quietly. We sat side by side in plastic chairs, the TV mounted on the wall muttering about the weather. Minutes passed without words. She collapsed this morning, he said eventually. They think it's a reaction to her medication. Is she conscious? I asked. He nodded. In and out. I hesitated. Does she know I'm here? A pause. Then, she asked for you. My heart stuttered. She's never met me. She feels like she has, he said. Through the stories. I stared at the floor. This was crossing a line I hadn't even acknowledged existed. I don't know if that's appropriate, I said. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important, he replied gently. I searched his face, looking for manipulation, for desperation masquerading as hope. All I saw was fear, the kind that strips pretense down to bone. Okay, I said. She was smaller than I expected. Pale against white sheets, silver hair brushed neatly back. Eyes bright with awareness that belied the monitors surrounding her. When she saw me, she smiled. You must be Emily, she said. Her voice was steady, warm. Yes, I replied, suddenly unsure of where to put my hands, my eyes, my emotions. Come sit, she said, patting the edge of the bed. I did. My son has loved you for a very long time, she said matter-of-factly. Longer than he's loved most things in his life. He shifted uncomfortably behind me. He never told me why you left, she continued. But I always knew it wasn't because of you. My throat tightened. I don't blame him, she added. Fear is a powerful teacher. So is regret. I blinked back tears. I'm not sure why you wanted to see me, I admitted. She studied me for a moment. Because I wanted to thank you. For what? I asked. For surviving what he couldn't explain, she said. And for still standing when he finally found the courage to speak. The weight of her words settled heavily on my chest. I don't know what will happen between you two, she went on. But I know this. People don't get many chances to correct the story they tell themselves about love. She squeezed my hand. Don't let fear write the ending, she said softly. Later, in the hallway, I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. I didn't expect that, I admitted. Neither did I, he said. She's direct. I gave a weak laugh. That's one word for it. We stood there, inches apart, the air between us thick with everything unspoken. This doesn't change anything, I said. I'm still not sure I can do this. I know, he replied. I'm not asking you to decide today. But life apparently had other plans. A nurse approached us, clipboard in hand. Family? She asked, looking between us. He opened his mouth. I spoke first. Yes, I said. The word echoed louder than I expected. He looked at me, stunned. I surprised myself too. The nurse nodded and continued down the hall. As soon as she was gone, I turned to him. I don't know why I said that. Maybe because it's true in some way, he said quietly. The realization hit me hard. Family wasn't just blood. It was history, memory, the people who shaped the versions of us we carried forward. And whether I liked it or not, he was stitched into mine. That night, after the hospital settled and visiting hours ended, we sat in his car, parked along the lake. The city lights reflected off the dark water, flickering like possibilities. I almost didn't call you, he admitted. I didn't want to put this on you. I'm glad you did, I said, surprising myself again. He turned to me, eyes searching. Emily, if this is too much. I need honesty, I interrupted. No more protecting me from the truth. He nodded. Okay. Are you still leaving? I asked. Yes, he said. In 2 days. The words landed like a blow. And you didn't think that mattered? I asked. It does, he replied. That's why this hurts. Anger flared. Then why open this door at all? Because leaving again without telling you how I feel would be the same mistake twice, he said. I stared out at the lake, tears slipping free. I can't do long-distance uncertainty, I said. I've built a life here. I'm not asking you to give it up, he replied. I'm asking you to believe I won't disappear. I turned to him. Can you promise that? He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, I can promise to stay present, even when it's hard. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. He reached for my hand, hesitating just long enough to give me time to pull away. I didn't. His fingers closed around mine, warm, familiar, grounding. And in that moment I realized something terrifying. Walking away would be easier. Staying meant risking everything I'd rebuilt. But as I watched the city lights ripple across the water, I knew. If I left now, I'd spend the rest of my life wondering what might have been. The words I never found. The morning he was supposed to leave, the city woke under a soft gray sky. Chicago does that sometimes, wraps itself in clouds like it's holding its breath. I stood at my kitchen window watching the street below, commuters moving with purpose, coffee cups in hand, unaware that someone else's entire future was balancing on a single decision. Mine. My phone buzzed on the counter. I'm heading to the airport in 2 hours. No pressure. I just wanted you to know. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care, but because if I did, I was afraid I'd say the wrong thing. Or worse, the right thing before I was ready to face what it would cost. I spent the next hour moving aimlessly through my apartment, straightening books that didn't need straightening, washing a mug that was already clean, pausing in the hallway to stare at a framed photo of myself at 30, smiling in front of Lake Michigan, a woman who had learned how to look whole on her own. I whispered to that woman, "What do we do now?" She didn't answer. At 9:11 a.m. I grabbed my coat. The airport was loud in the way only American airports are. Rolling suitcases, boarding announcements, the steady hum of people in transit. I spotted him near security, jacket slung over his arm, passport in hand. He looked calm. That almost broke me. He noticed me at the same moment I noticed him. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he smiled, not hopeful, not resigned, just grateful. "You came," he said. I nodded. I didn't know how not to. We stood there, the crowd flowing around us like a river splitting at a stone. "I don't want to rush you," he said. "If you're here just to say goodbye, that's okay." The word goodbye settled heavy in my chest. I spent 15 years convincing myself I didn't need closure, I said quietly. That strong women move on without answers. And, he asked. And I was wrong, I admitted. Strong women face the things that scare them, even when it would be easier not to. His eyes softened. I'm not asking you to come with me, he said. I wouldn't do that to you. I know, I replied. Silence fell again. Not awkward, not empty. Just full. Do you remember what you said to me the night before you left? I asked suddenly. He frowned slightly. I said a lot of things. You said, if I ever hurt you, it won't be because I didn't love you. His breath caught. I hated you for that, I continued, because it felt like a promise wrapped in an excuse. I'm sorry, he said. I know, I replied. But here's the thing. I took a shaky breath. You were right about one part, I said. Love isn't always enough, but it's also not nothing. And I've spent too long pretending what we had didn't matter just because it didn't last. He searched my face. Emily. I'm not done, I said softly. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. I'm not ready to rewrite my life around you, I said. And I'm not asking you to stay. His shoulders relaxed slightly. But I'm also not willing to let fear make this decision for me, I continued. Not again. Hope flickered, careful, restrained. So this is what I can offer, I said. Honesty. Conversation. Effort. From both of us. He nodded slowly. That's more than I deserve. Don't decide that for me, I said. A boarding announcement crackled overhead. His flight. He glanced toward the gate, then back at me. I don't know what this looks like, he said. Neither do I replied. But for the first time, that doesn't feel like a threat. He smiled then, really smiled. The one I remembered from years ago, when the future still felt wide open. He leaned in, resting his forehead against mine. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. Thank you, he whispered. For not walking away. I closed my eyes. Thank you for coming back. He pulled away reluctantly. I'll call you when I land, he said. I'll answer, I replied. And then he was gone, disappearing into the line of travelers, just another man with a destination. Except this time he hadn't taken my voice with him. 3 months later I stood in the same diner on Maple. Same blue booths. Same bell on the door. Different woman. My phone buzzed as I stirred my coffee. Gate just opened. Chicago, here I come. I smiled to myself. We hadn't labeled anything. No grand declarations. Just steady, intentional presence. Long conversations. Awkward moments. Honest ones. Distance bridged not by promises, but by consistency. The bell chimed. I looked up. There he was. And for the first time since that 6:17 a.m. phone call, I felt something quiet and profound settle in my chest. Not certainty. Not guarantees. But peace. He slid into the booth across from me. Hey, he said. Hey, I replied. We smiled. And in that simple moment, no speeches, no dramatic music, no perfect ending, I realized why this reunion had left me speechless. Because some love stories don't come back to shout. They come back to whisper. I'm still here if you are.